Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Joshino, and today I'm here to say to Hi-Rez, stop. Please, just stop with increasing the grind slowly in a slipping slope and making it slightly worse and worse for newer players. If you didn't know, what they've done this patch, OB51, is remove a lot of the mastery rewards for gold that were previously there. Now there are these higher tier skins that you can purchase, but whilst those are great and they're an incentive for older players to keep grinding and to keep playing in champions, getting rid of the gold just makes it harder for the older players that would be playing these champions, wanting to get the lower level rewards and generally just making the grind harder. They also took away the ability to disenchant both legendary and epic cards that you get from the Radiant chests and turn them into essence, which is a currency you use to purchase cards that affect gameplay. I originally praised Hi-Rez for making this change because it made the Radiant chests less random and the grind less random, and basically made the grind a bit easier too, because you're normally going for a set of cards to make a champion work in a specific way, and there aren't really better cards than each other. There's not one card that's better than another one, but there are cards that are better when they are synced together, and there's certain builds that are better than other ones, I would say. What's also frustrating is the reasoning they gave in their forum post. Okay, I'm going to read it out to you right now. And it's in gold cards as well, sorry about that. After the ability to disenchant cards was introduced, we noticed players are playing less champions as before, as they are now disenchanting legendaries for champions they had not yet played. Oh no! We want to preserve legendaries as powerful and valuable assets to the game and keep them as something that encourages players to play a variety of champions. Grade A bullshit, folks. Grade A. That's the highest level of bullshit right there. The reason people are probably playing less champions is because they're getting less cards, they're getting less items for other champions. Also, because they're using the gold to buy the essence, so they don't have the gold for the champion's purchases anymore. So you basically have to spend gold on pretty much everything, and you're getting less out of it when you get the essences. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit later, and just how messy the grind is at the moment, and why it's just, even with all these increases, it's a mess in general. It's just not in a good place. Anyway, those are both of the big changes, and I'm just going to quickly go over why it is pretty bad. So I was actually doing some research into monetization with games and how a CEO, it seems, controls these decisions, and maybe people in marketing teams below that, and how they should approach the free-to-play model and how companies make money. So I don't necessarily think the free-to-play model is bad. One of the things that is good about the free-to-play model is that you never have a point where the game stops, the development stops. You're always bringing out new things to keep players excited, to keep players engaged, and to keep playing your game, and also to keep purchasing the items that you put out and things like that. Which means that the companies will try and be as active as possible with development over time and keep the game alive for longer and keep having new stuff out. And we can see that because there's new champions coming out all the time. There's great cosmetics this time around, and big up to the art team. They're really smashing things out there. And honestly, I think in good free-to-play models, the cosmetics are great in video games, and honestly, they're coming out in spades at the moment. It's interesting for me to read all these articles and see all of the insider tips and tricks on free-to-play games and monetization, and realise that actually it wasn't how I thought. I envisaged it to be something like they were implementing in this game, having this random grind. But actually what is talked about, the biggest thing is day one retention, so making sure, and especially early on retention, keeping a person playing the game, wanting more, so that eventually they might be a profit in the end. They might buy a skin, they might buy a founder's pack, they might buy something along the line. And the statistics are that only around 20 to 30% of people in most games, most situations, stick with the game after the first game, the first session they play. And a strong retention is something like 50%, to give you an idea of how free-to-play games work. Whilst I do agree that Paladins as a game, as it plays out, is great, and that's a big step for this early retention, making the grind harder for new players goes completely against it, and also goes against the FTUE, the first time user experience. And the thing is that Hi-Rez have kept increasing the grind slowly over time. They took away the Radiant chests when you got mastery rewards, actually implying the essence system basically lowered the value of gold and made the grind much harder altogether. And even this time they've taken away more of the rewards, more of the gold. And again, they have been a bit shady in how they've announced it. They didn't say they'd taken them away, they just announced what the new rewards were, which were lowered. I mean, it's better than not saying anything in the last time that they did it, where they just tried to do it on the sly. But I think that without a response, and without trying to make this as audible as possible to the development team, that is just going to go by, and it'll probably keep getting worse and worse over time. Which is my fear, and it's a fear out of wanting the game to succeed, and to have as many players as possible, and to have a long-term good game. I mean, maybe that's what they're aiming for here, some short-term bucks to turn over, but I just don't understand how they expect to make more profit by making the grind harder, because a whale, the people that they mainly target, there's the idea of this consumer that has a lot of money, they're just willing to splash the cash on all of the elements in the game, are probably going to buy a boost anyway. They can't be bothered to grind. If they enjoy the game, if you've got one of these whales enjoying the game, you're going to spend a lot of money, they're probably going to buy the grind anyway, the XP boost. It doesn't really matter how big the grind is. I thought originally, before the Essence system, it was on the cusp of being a little bit too easy. Now it is a bit longer, and I think it's on the cusp of being almost too long. And making it longer isn't a good thing. But I don't see why a whale, these people that are actually buying the boosts and things like that, are going to change their mind by the fact that the game is harder to grind anyway. They'll probably just get a boost. They'll buy the Founders Pack, they'll have all the champions, there won't be the grind there. They'll buy the boost and then just keep it on forever. Maybe it's so that they can keep getting the boost and they want to milk these whales for all they've got. Perhaps that is the reason. And to be fair, when I talk about removing these mastery rewards, they were just for each of the champions, and the grind was relatively long. And you do get more gold from just playing games really and doing the daily quests than you'll get from these mastery chests anyway. It's just like I mentioned, just chipping away at the speed of the grind. Okay, so on to the actual state of the grind itself in the game. I've talked about this a lot. I've parroted on about it, and honestly, Hi-Rez haven't listened to me, they haven't listened to a lot of players that have had concerns about it, had concerns when it was first announced, including myself. And that is the actual Essence system and the fact that you grind through the Radiant Chest. The Radiant Chest is such a mess in my opinion. It just is a terrible idea to basically use as a grind an RNG, a random number generation chest. And not only that, but to mix it up with all of the cosmetic items, the sort of non-premium cosmetic items that are there for free-to-play players to keep playing and keep the retention. I find it baffling. Actually, it was interesting to hear the devs originally talk about it, and they compared it to Hearthstone and card collecting games. But the thing is, the people that play Hearthstone and are playing a card game, specifically because there might be people that play Hearthstone and play Paladins, but they're playing the games for different reasons, and they expect different things as well. In a shooter game where it's quite team heavy, it's competitive, you don't expect so much of the grind or the random number generation in the actual gameplay itself, rather than the cosmetic system that exists around it. But the biggest problem for me is that the grind is so random. It's hard to talk about how long it is or how hard it is, because you never have a set amount of cards you're going to get, amount of duplicates you're going to get, and the grind is just messy. And the thing is, you annoy the players that are already playing the game, the older players that want to get these free-to-play elements, because when they're trying to get these free-to-play skins, they're going to get cards that are duplicates and get essence that they don't need. But then new players are going to get the cards and get the skins, and they don't really want them. They want the cards to keep grinding and get essence to build up decks and play champions different ways. You're basically pissing off both ends of your user bases. You've got the long-term players and the short-term players. The second thing is, you're basically devaluing gold and creating a sub-currency. So essence is only gold minus. It's gold crappier. I'd give an analogy and say that essence is almost like getting a voucher in a store, but you're actually getting less money for that voucher, and you can only use it for one thing. You can only use it for the grind. For a lot of older players, what they've ended up with is credit left over, which you normally get on vouchers anyway. You've got loads of credit, but nothing to spend it on. It's sort of the same thing as maybe spending £20 on clothing, but then having £5 left on your shopping voucher, but there's nothing in the store for £5. I'd say it's the same thing and the same problem. Again, not every person's having the same experience. Some people might have a great grind. They get loads of legendary cards because they're extremely lucky. And people have tried to look at the card percentage dropperages by doing surveys and trying to find out the percentages. But there's nothing hard as of yet, but it might be released on the Chinese website I can't find it myself. I have been looking through it to try and find out the values. It might be on there somewhere, as they introduce new laws to show percentage drops in chests. And because they do charge the premium currency, the money for the Radiant chest, they should, in theory, have to announce it. But I don't think it's fully released in China just yet. And that's the thing, it makes it so hard to talk about the issue because it's so random. I can't say the grind is great or the grind is terrible, I just have to say the grind is really messy because it's really hard to tell how hard it's actually going to be for every user. Another change I didn't mention that I should bring up is that they've allowed premium keys for the Radiant chest as well, where you spend crystals, the premium currency for money, to only get an item you haven't gotten before and not get a duplicate. I think it's ridiculous because this chest is just so messy, and there just shouldn't be this split in the first place between the two. And this duplicate business is just nonsense anyway, and the grind is stupid. I can't put it in a flattering way. I think that Hi-Rez needs to buck up their ideas and just separate essence right now from gold. Have it so in games you get both gold and you get essence. Essence is only for the cards. Gold is for the Radiant chest, which doesn't have the cards in them anymore. Gold is to buy the non-premium cosmetics, the mastery skins, things like that. The things that you are progressing towards as a player, the things that aren't affecting your grind and the champion unlocks. You can actually just level out the amounts of gold, the amounts of essence you're getting because they're split up now, and try and make the grind at a similar level. Maybe just a bit less because I do think it's going too far now into the harder side. But then also it'll be very transparent what the grind is and how long it takes, because then it'll be actually no longer random. Sure, the cosmetics can be random still in that RNG chest, but then you'll have the grind itself not being random. That way as well, it'll be more valuable to get the Radiant chests with crystals because you're always going to get a skin or something that you want rather than just some crummy card that you already have. And also you're full of essence anyway if you're an older player. For a new player, you're happy because you're getting this currency for the essence, for the grind, to pick out the cards that you want. But you're also able to go and get some skins if you put enough time in. I'm sure there's lots of other solutions to this, and I'm sure that you can let me know in the comment section below what your idea is and what your solution would be, because that's quite interesting, and going forwards and resolving the issue is better than anything really. Again, I'm not doom and gloom or anything like that, but at the bottom line, I don't want them to shaft new players and to ruin this new player experience and player retention for some sort of short-term monetary goal. It doesn't even seem to be backed up by any of the papers I've read on free-to-play monetization, and the idea of trying to do this sort of thing just seems sucky and a bad decision. All I can say is make your mind known on Twitter, on Reddit, on my YouTube, anywhere in the Paladins space, anywhere in the social media space. Let them know if you are unhappy with it, but don't be a dick about it. Just do it in a way that's very logical and can actually be turned into some sort of change of mind for the people that are responsible. What do you all think about it? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more of my content, and I'll see you all next time. I'm about to blow the plane to the UK, so see you soon, folks. Maybe on the stream or something.